The question I will be answering is number 53 on page 247. It asks, find all the zeros and write a linear factorization of the function. 53 is function of x, 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 2x plus 30. So I have to find all the zeros, including irrational and rational. So the first step to finding the rational zeros is using the rational zeros theorem, which is when I use the first coefficient and the last number and put it in fraction form. So I use the last number and put it as the numerator and the first coefficient as the denominator. Once I do that, I simplify those into all the possible rational zeros. So I got plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 5, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 10, plus or minus 15, plus or minus 30, plus or minus 1/2, plus or minus 3/2, plus or minus 2.5, plus or minus 7.5. So the easiest way to do this is to take your calculator and plug the function in. So here's the function in my calculator, and you go to second table and you plug in each zero to find each number to find if it's a zero. So I can already see that here that negative 1.5 is a zero, and I tried every other number and no other number came out as a zero, so that means the other two zeros, because this function is to an exponent of 3, that means that there are 3 zeros, so I have to find the two other irrational zeros. So how you do that is use synthetic division to simplify the function, so you could use the quadratic formula. So you use negative 1.5 because that's a zero in synthetic division. So you take 2, negative 9, 2, and 30 and plug it in there. And so 2 drops down. 2 times negative 1.5 is negative 3. And negative 9 plus negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 1.5 is 18. 2 plus 18 is 20. And 20 times negative 1.5 is negative 30. And 30 plus 30 is 0. So that also proves that negative 1.5 is a 0. So next you take this, take 2, negative 12, and 20, and use it for your function. So it turns into 2x squared minus 12x plus 20. So what you do now is you plug that into the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So b is negative 12, so you plug 12 in there. So since it's negative 12 and b in the quadratic formula is negative, it turns positive. So 12 plus or minus square root of b squared, which is 12, so negative 12 squared, minus 4 times 2 times 20, because 2 is a and 20 is c, over 2a. And what you do now is you simplify. So negative 12 squared turns into 144, and 2 times 20 times 4 is 160, so 144 minus 160 is negative 16. So what you do now, obviously 2 times 2 is 4. So what you do now is you simplify square root of negative 16. Since we know that I equals square root of a negative, so that turns in the square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. So we know that it equals 4i. And then you simplify that whole fraction. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 4i divided by 4 is I. So that turns into 3 plus or minus I, meaning there's 2, so 3 minus I and 3 plus I. Then, since I found all my zeros, I found 1, 2, 3, of my zeros, I put that into the linear factorization form. So x plus 1.5 times x minus 3 minus I times x minus 3 plus I equals 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 2x plus 30. And that is how you solve the problem.